community college teaching African American studies.
And so you've got quite a bit of experience dealing with Tennessee State University and the state of Tennessee, even though you came from Detroit. You've been here such a long time, and of course you came at a very, very ripe time in terms of what we're talking about this morning, the civil rights movement. And I think you indicated earlier that talked about opposition and I think you used the word adversity and whatever. Let's talk about the civil rights movement and how you met that movement when you first came to the city. Let's look at separation, because you were not familiar with the restaurants and two sides and all that.
It was a cultural shock for me. It was a cultural shock. I remember so vividly coming to Nashville, 1961, I'm talking about, and being in the downtown area, the Black Business District, and I never will forget seeing the huge billboard that had the Gold Dust Twins looking down. That was a cultural shock to me, and going into the stores and seeing canned food that was called Negro beans and stuff like this. So that was very different. And the only very, very few things that I can remember in my background that made me aware of the real race problem that existed in this country. And I remember with my family watching the events in the South on television, and my dad said to me, "Gloria, I'm sending you there to get an education. Do not get involved in the movement." And that's the very thing that I did, and I think it was the best education I ever had because of that involvement. And when I became a student at TSU, it was in '61, and the Freedom Rides had already taken place, and many of the mass movement events had already transpired. Bevel and Diane Nash had left Nashville, so it was a new period in Nashville for the civil rights movement, because it was just a few places really holding out.
Very good. And of course, let us have this first commercial break here, Professor McKissack, and then we'll come back and we'll let you pick up at that particular point, because I think that the information that you're giving us now is sort of an insider's view in terms of becoming involved with, and especially an insider who was not familiar at all with the racial mores of Nashville and the Deep South. And of course, we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break. The topic